Welcome to the Blind Justice Podcast, where you discover the insider secrets of injury and accident cases, and all of your law questions get answered. Now, here's your host, Chicago injury lawyer, Scott DeSalvo.
Hey guys, we're continuing. Oh, you know who it is. All right, I'll tell you who it is. It's Scott DeSalvo.
Scott DeSalvo? Here?
Knock, knock. Who's there? Scott DeSalvo.
Who are you going to call?
Wait, oh no. We're going to get busted, man. You're totally appropriating somebody else's music.
Oh, no.
So the clever one over there is Amelia Frenefrock, my fantastic co-host.
Oh, stop, but don't.
As she's using hand gestures to egg me on. Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in again. We're continuing the Scott Let the Mailbag of Questions Overflow theme with this podcast. I'm encouraging people to send in questions, or if you have a question you want to call in and answer live on air, we have that capability with my fabulous Amazon.com budget mixing board in our fantastic studio here. But if you have some questions, send them to me at scott@desalvolaw.com, or you can call me at 312-895-0545 and hit extension 5 and let Jessica Ibarra, the office manager here, know that you've got a question to answer. So we had too many questions to answer that we're building up. And so the theme on these next few podcasts are going to be answering the questions. So, Amelia, would you like to give the synopsis of the letter?
Absolutely. Okay, so my son got hurt in a car crash, and I need to know if there's information about his injury case that we are missing. Can you help?
It's actually a great question because it's really true that there are a few wrinkles when a child gets injured that people ought to know about, right?
Yeah.
Usually if you've got
a...
Yeah, for sure. Nobody likes to talk about kids getting injured other than us on this podcast. It's just sort of weird. It's making me re-examine whether I'm a moral person right now. I'm doing it for the people. I want to answer the people's
You're doing it
questions.
for the kids.
I am, for the children. I feel like Jerry, what's his name? The comedian who always...
Jerry from Parks and Rec?
Jerry's kids. No. Anyway. Jerry... Oh, what's
Seinfeld?
his name? No, other Jerry, old Jerry. MS Telethon. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. This is what happens when you get old, folks.
Can we get an intern on that?
Two things happen when you get old. One, nobody understands or remembers or even knows your cultural references. A, and B, you can't remember anyone's names because you're getting old.
See, I have the second problem, and I don't think I'm old quite
That's
yet.
because you're a woman of all seasons, and you need to stop hanging around with third graders, girl.
It's third grade. There's just no, it's third graders and 30-year-olds and on.
It's just one of those things where you like to lord your superior adding skills over the third graders.
It's exactly right.
So good for your self-esteem.
Yeah, I need it. It brings me life.
I don't know. Anyway, so let's talk about injuries to third graders. You want to read the letter?
Yes.
Or read the question?
Yes. Dear Mr. DeSalvo, I was driving my car through an intersection on a green light. My wife was in the passenger seat and my son was in the back seat. Another car came from our right and T-boned us. My wife and I were not hurt bad, but I am mainly worried about my son. Are there any things my wife and I need to know about when a child is injured in a car crash?
Yeah, it's horrible when kids get hurt in crashes like that, and there are a few things that we that you ought to know about, and I scribbled down some things. The first thing that occurred to me, there's deadlines called statute of limitations in all kinds of cases, right? We've talked about those before.
We talked about that.
And so when a minor or a child under the age of 18 is injured, most statute of limitations are 2 years from the date of the crash, right? If the city is involved in the crash, you've got 1 year to sue the city from the date of the crash.
Convenient.
It's the golden rule, right? He who has the gold makes the rules. So
sounds about right.
City's
Chicago.
got special protections. Nice job.
As TJ Miller would say, this fucking city.
Yeah, 100%. But so when a child is injured, it's a little bit different. A minor, has 2 years from the time that they turn 18, basically their 20th birthday.
So if they got injured when they're 4, they have until 2 years after their 18th birthday.
Yeah, right.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a
Awesome.
law. It's a law.
Great.
Yeah. So let's say you're a kid and you get hurt really bad, and your parents are just not on the ball, right? They're not super educated, or they're, not focused on the
Both
thing.
working
or,
like full-time jobs and they don't have the time to
right,
see it.
or they don't realize that you've suffered a serious injury until way later. It's to protect a child, right?
Right.
Gives them more opportunity to seek compensation for whatever injury they sustain.
Right.
So the one thing I'll mention, though, is that when a parent pays for a child's medical bills, they can make a claim under the Family Medical Expense Act and get paid back for the medical. So let's say your kid gets hurt, but you pay the kid's doctor bills, which you would expect to happen.
Of course.
And you want the guy who ran into your son to pay the doctor bills back. You can file a claim. I think it's 2 years on that sort of case to get the medical bills back.
Oh,
so
hell yeah.
And then the other thing to consider is there are maybe some good reasons why you don't want to wait like 16 years to file a lawsuit.
Sure.
So, for example, let's say it's a car crash case, and the people in your car say it's the other guy's fault. All the people in the other guy's car say it's your driver's fault.
Right.
And then there's like 3 witnesses on the street corner who say, oh, we all saw this whole thing. We're ready to come to court.
Right.
16 years later, are any of those folks around? Can you find them?
Right.
Did somebody pass away in the interim? How good is their memory 16 years later?
Right.
Right? So there's lots of good reasons why you shouldn't avail yourself necessarily of the fact that you can file a lawsuit way later. And in fact, most lawyers don't. I mean, you do have to balance sort of, and this kind of goes into the next topic, the next thought I had in answering this gentleman's question. You have to balance out how aggressive you are to file a lawsuit with whether you have a full understanding of the kind of injury you're dealing with, right? So my second point is a lot of times, especially in a kid, and especially if the kid isn't talking yet, it's hard for you to know the extent of their injuries, right? So a lot of times people consult me on these sorts of things and ask me, like, well, how do I know? Like, what if we drop the case, or what if we settle the case? What if we go to trial on the case, and then a year or two later their problem gets worse, or they develop a back problem instead of their leg problem, or in addition to the leg problem? Like, so, for example, there are things called growth plates at the ends of bones. And so it's possible in a leg or an arm for a child to break a bone at the end of the bone and disturb the growth plates, meaning that arm or leg won't continue to grow normally, which can really cause a major problem, right? So it's hard to know. And what I always tell people when they consult with me on an injury to a child is, do not be shy about having that doctor check that doctor. Don't be shy about checking doctors out if they're very attractive. No.
Compliment them. It'll make their day.
100%, because doctors don't get enough praise and money and power. And
if anything, we should be
affection.
Dissing them. Yeah.
Yes. This Halloween, I say we all go out and hunt MDs.
Yeah.
And all the other.
If you listen to our last podcast, just only the company doctors, right?
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm a Juris doctor, though, so maybe I should shut up. Anyway, my point is, that train sort of derailed. I forgot what I was talking about.
You were talking about growth plates, and if a child got an injury on a growth plate, deformities, which could cause...
Right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so getting the kid checked out by a doctor if you suspect any problem is really smart, right? Because the way we prove a lot of these cases is by having a doctor saying this was caused by that, right? And if you don't let your doctor know about the accident or injury early on, then how is the doctor going to make the connection? The other thing is there's no medical condition in the world that benefits by waiting. Any medical condition you think you're suffering from, get to the doctor, and that goes for your child too, right? And whenever I think of injuries to kids, I always think about, and maybe this is just me, but I just feel like and I'm sure this is sort of a male perspective. I'm sure women have like the corresponding view.
Sure.
But whenever I think about an injured child, I think of all the doors that are closed to them and all the opportunities that they don't get.
Sure.
So let's say you're the kid whose leg got broken when he was 4 and it never grew right. And now you're the kid with the weird leg who doesn't walk. Is he going to get his first kiss in high school? Is he going to marry his high school sweetheart? Is he going to be the star basketball player? Is he even going to be the worst guy on the basketball team?
Right.
Is he going to make friends with those people that he otherwise would have had lifelong friendships with? My point is, like, an injury to a child is terrifying to the parents. But the thing that worries me about those things is all the things in that kid's future that we don't even see right now.
Right.
You know, all those opportunities and things in life that make life worth living that this kid isn't going to have even a shot at, right?
Right. And as a parent, you want to give your kid everything. To have that happen, I'm sure there's a lot of anger and resentment that comes with having your child be in an injury, and God forbid something happening that gives them this setback, that follows them.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because that's the third thing I wanted to talk about, which is if a child is injured and we get to the point where the insurance company and the defendant are willing to pay what is really great money, fair money, for the kind of injury, and I have a parent who balks at the money and insists that we go to trial, even when I can demonstrate a typical verdict range for that kind of injury.
Right.
I know that something other than fair compensation is fueling them.
Right.
And it's exactly what you were just saying. It is that sense of, this is my child, it is my job to protect my child,
right.
and that SOB hurt my child.
Of course.
And so I want to hurt them back.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's the most natural thing in the world, and I understand it, but there's no mechanism for that in personal injury law, unless you can show that the defendant acted willfully or with like a conscious disregard. It's called willful and wanton conduct, right?
Oh, okay.
Then you can get what's called punitive damages, meaning not just money to compensate you or your child for your injury, but you can actually ask the jury for even more money to punish them.
What?
Yeah, but you really have to prove that the person sort of
had it out for them.
Did it on purpose or acted so recklessly. Not just the light turned red and I didn't see it. It would have to be like, yeah, I decided after drinking for 6 hours straight, I drank a bottle of Jack Daniels and I decided to drag race with somebody on. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just, yeah.
Above and beyond conduct that is so reprehensible, it just with a conscious disregard for the safety of anyone.
Yeah. And
everyone. So those are pretty rare. But in the vast majority of cases, it's mainly going to be like a negligence case.
Right.
It's just a failure to be careful. And under those circumstances, it's compensatory damages only, meaning damages to put you back where you were, not damages to hurt the guy who hurt you.
Right. Yeah.
So, those are my thoughts on it. It's always a tragedy when you're talking about injury to a kid. It's always super emotional for the parents, and I can understand why.
Right.
And so there are some wrinkles, and I hope the gentleman who sent us in the question is listening to the podcast. I'm sorry what happened to your son, and hopefully things work out. But if you have a question, you can always call me, and I'm happy to answer the question.
And you say this a little bit at the beginning of the podcast, but just to reiterate, it's better to call you directly if you do have a case than to take everything from this podcast to heart, because every case is different. Yeah,
I have a little disclaimer that plays at the end of every podcast, but it's true. I mean, what we're doing here is definitely not legal advice. It's just acquainting people with generally how these cases work.
Right.
And especially, I know if my child was injured, I would, if I had a child, but assuming I had a child, this hypothetical child was hypothetically injured.
Tiny Alec Baldwin.
I would probably hire another lawyer to analyze the case. right? Because it's got to be really impossible to be objective.
I'm sure.
Right?
I'm sure.
You guys should definitely hire a lawyer. I have several suggestions. One is by far the top on the list.
Scott DeSalvo.
Thanks, Amelia. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you have any questions, please submit them. Look forward to talking to you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. I truly hope that the information in the podcast helps you no matter the situation you find yourself in. But you might need more answers or some more direct help. So there are 3 ways for you easily to find out more and to get help. If you call my toll-free 24-hour helpline, 888-HURT-318, you'll have a couple of options. 888-HURT-318 is my toll-free 24-hour telephone line. You can call that number and speak with my team night or day. First, you can call 888-HURT-318, and you can speak to me for a free consultation about your case or situation. That's always free and no obligation. Second, you can tell the operator that you'd like a free copy of my injury DVD and book. I created the DVD and book, and I give it away for free to injured people who need answers, but who might not be ready to talk to a lawyer yet. Same deal, 100% free, 100% no obligation. Third and finally, you can check out my YouTube channel for informative videos about the injury case and claims process, or check out my other podcasts for more information and interesting interviews with people who know different things about various aspects of the law. I've put all of this together to help you and to answer your questions. Now, you can also help me, and I hope that you will. If you enjoyed the podcast and if it helped you at all, please subscribe, and if you can, take a minute and please post a positive review of the show. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you know anyone who might enjoy the podcast, please spread the word and share it on Facebook. It's my mission to spread good information to as many people as possible, and your liking and reviewing and subscribing to the podcast helps me get the word out. Thanks again. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It doesn't substitute for consulting with a lawyer. If you have a case, speak with a lawyer right away.